Balanced boundaries. Attract equals instead of controllers. Chapter 1. The hidden cost of weak boundaries. There's a quiet, almost imperceptible erosion that happens when you consistently allow others to overstep. It doesn't happen with a sudden crash, but rather with a slow, steady trickle. It feels like a subtle shift in the balance, one that you might ignore at first, thinking it's just easier to go along with things. You might tell yourself, it's no big deal, or I don't want to rock the boat. But deep down, you know that quiet allowance is costing you something very precious. It's costing you your energy, your peace, and perhaps most significantly, your self-respect. Think of your personal space, your time, and your emotional availability as a beautiful, well-tended garden. Boundaries are the elegant fence around it, not meant to keep everyone out, but to let the right people in with respect for the space. When the fence is weak, or simply not there, people wander in and out, taking what they please, trampling the very peace you've worked so hard to cultivate. This is the hidden cost of weak boundaries. It's not just about the specific thing you said yes to when you meant no. It's about the cumulative impact of those small compromises on your inner sense of equilibrium. When your boundaries are soft, you send an unconscious signal to the world that your needs are negotiable, or perhaps less important than the needs of others. This is why soft limits can become magnets for imbalance. They tend to attract those who are comfortable taking up too much space, or who are perhaps less mindful of the mutual exchange necessary for a truly healthy relationship. In any partnership, friendship, or professional dynamic, there is a fundamental psychological scale. For the relationship to thrive, that scale must be weighted equally. It must be in harmony. When you constantly give more than you receive, when you accommodate to the point of exhaustion, or when you prioritize the comfort of others over your own integrity, that scale tips violently. The person who receives the excess attention or energy may not even realize they are doing it, but the result is the same. You feel drained, resentful, and utterly unmoored from your own center. The truth is, boundaries aren't just rules for other people. They are acts of profound self-care. They are a declaration that you value your well-being enough to protect it. When you make that declaration, you begin to restore that vital personal harmony. Let's look at the feeling of being emotionally drained. This is often the first, most powerful symptom of a boundary issue. It's that feeling after a conversation where you feel heavier than you did before it started, as if the other person took a piece of your light and left you with their shadow. This isn't a sign that you are selfish. It's a clear signal that the exchange was unbalanced. Think about the dynamic of constantly being the one to listen, to solve problems, or to provide emotional comfort without receiving that supportive energy in return. It's a wonderful quality to be a giver, to be a presence for others, but even the deepest well runs dry without replenishment. When you don't have boundaries to signal, I need to be heard now, or I need to step away and recharge, you are asking yourself to run on empty. This is not sustainable, nor is it fair to yourself. Another hidden cost is the erosion of authenticity. Weak boundaries often compel us to say things we don't mean or agree to things we resent, all in the name of keeping the peace. We put on a mask of agreeable compliance because the discomfort of a potential disagreement feels worse than the internal discomfort of inauthenticity. But every time you choose compliance over your truth, you create a deeper internal rift. You are choosing the external appearance of harmony over the internal reality of your own integrity. Over time, you might start to feel disconnected from your true self, unsure of what you actually want because you've spent so long prioritizing what everyone else wants. This is the crucial lesson. External peace is unsustainable if it comes at the expense of internal peace. The core purpose of setting a strong boundary is to restore balance, not just for you, but for the relationship itself. A strong boundary essentially says, I value myself, and I value this connection enough to ensure it is based on mutual respect, not on one-sided accommodation. When you set a limit, when you say, I can only help with that project until 5 o'clock, or I can't discuss this emotionally heavy topic right now, but I'm free on Thursday, you are creating space. You are creating a structure where equality can thrive. Without that structure, the relationship defaults to the path of least resistance, which is often the one where the more assertive personality dictates the flow. The path to restoring personal harmony starts with a simple recognition. You are inherently worthy of respect. Your time, your energy, and your emotional space are sacred, and protecting them is not a hostile act. It is a necessary act of grace toward yourself. Consider the people you admire who have a beautiful composure and a sense of calm authority. Chances are, they are also people who have very clear, yet gracious, boundaries. They don't have to defend their space constantly because they have already defined it. They move through the world with a certain ease because they are not constantly battling against expectations they never agreed to. Their harmony is self-maintained. This is what we are striving for, a self-maintained state of grace and equilibrium. The power shift happens when you decide that the internal discomfort of saying a firm, kind no is less damaging than the long-term emotional decay of saying a resentful yes. This small, internal recalibration is where your personal power is reclaimed. By understanding the cost of weak boundaries, the lost energy, the resentment, the feeling of being off-center, you create the powerful motivation needed to change. You stop viewing boundaries as fences that cause conflict and start seeing them as the elegant, necessary framework that ensures your relationships are built on a solid, balanced foundation. A strong boundary is an invitation to an equal partner. It signals, I am a whole person with my own needs, and I expect you to be a whole person with yours. We will meet in the middle, respecting both of our spheres. This clarity naturally filters out those who are only interested in taking and gently draws in those who seek a genuine, supportive, and reciprocal connection. The journey begins now, with the gentle but firm commitment to prioritize your own sense of inner harmony. You are not meant to be perpetually accommodating. You are meant to be balanced, centered, and whole. Restoring your boundaries is simply restoring the natural, beautiful order of your life. Reflection. Take a moment to consider one relationship where you most frequently feel drained or off balance. What is one small, quiet compromise you consistently make in that dynamic? Acknowledge the cost of that compromise on your peace, and silently commit to valuing your inner equilibrium more than the temporary comfort of avoiding a slight discomfort. Your harmony is worth protecting. Chapter 2, Understanding Your Needs and Values. In the previous chapter, we explored the quiet devastation caused by weak boundaries, realizing that their cost is far greater than the temporary discomfort of setting them. We saw that restoring balance begins with reclaiming your own self-respect and energy. But to truly rebuild that elegant boundary fence, we must first understand the landscape it is meant to enclose. You cannot effectively communicate a limit until you know with absolute certainty what you are protecting and why it matters. This process of self-discovery is the most crucial step in attracting equals instead of controllers. It's about achieving inner clarity before seeking external harmony. After all, how can you expect someone else to respect your standards if you haven't yet clearly articulated those standards to yourself? The foundation of every healthy relationship rests not on mutual compromise, but on mutual awareness. Before you can engage in the gracious dance of partnership, you must be solidly rooted in your own space. This is the moment to turn your focus entirely inward, to take the emotional temperature of your life, and to define your non-negotiables. This is the process of setting your internal scale to zero. Think of your life as a carefully composed piece of music. Your needs and values are the rhythm and the key signature. When you allow others to constantly change the key or disrupt the rhythm, the music becomes noise. Understanding your needs is simply identifying the natural rhythm you require to play your best tune. So, let's explore what it means to truly understand what you require from the people, commitments, and connections in your life. We can break down your fundamental requirements into three essential spheres: time and space, emotional and mental, and integrity and equity. The sphere of time and space. This sphere deals with your autonomy, your energy levels, and your physical presence. It is perhaps the most tangible area where boundaries are first tested. A need in this sphere might sound like, I require at least 1 hour of uninterrupted time each evening to read and decompress. Or, I need to maintain one entire weekend day free of any prior social commitments. It could even be as simple as, I need a 3-hour notice before someone shows up at my home. When this sphere is neglected, the cost is exhaustion, burnout, and a deep sense of being suffocated or constantly behind. When you say yes to every request for your time, you are effectively saying no to your own well-being. Your requirement for time and space is not selfish. It is life-giving. It is the necessary solitude that allows you to refuel, regenerate, and return to your relationships as a whole, vibrant person, rather than a depleted resource. Defining this need allows you to protect your energy reserve, ensuring you have enough to bring to the table in an equitable partnership. The sphere of emotional and mental clarity. This sphere relates to the way you are treated, how you are spoken to, and the kind of mental environment you need to feel safe and respected. This is where your need for gracious communication, attentive listening, and intellectual fairness resides. A need in this sphere might be, I require discussions to remain focused on the issue, avoiding personal attacks or raising voices. Or, I need conversations to be reciprocal, a mutual exchange, not a monologue. Perhaps it's, I need my emotional experiences to be acknowledged, not minimized or dismissed. The opposite of this is emotional chaos, gaslighting, or chronic invalidation. If you find yourself consistently feeling misunderstood, unheard, or defensively explaining your reality, your needs in this sphere are being violated. Clarity here involves understanding the quality of connection you require. You are seeking a relationship built on mutual respect and intellectual honesty. If a relationship does not provide a safe, respectful container for your thoughts and feelings, it is automatically unbalanced, and no amount of outward appearance can fix the internal dissonance. The sphere of integrity and equity. This sphere encompasses your core moral and ethical requirements, as well as the need for fairness and reciprocity in all exchanges, be they practical, financial, or labor-related. This is often where the values you hold dear translate into actionable limits. A need here could be, I require absolute honesty in all communication, even when it is difficult. Or, I need household duties financial contributions to be clearly defined and shared equitably. It's the requirement that the efforts put into a partnership or project are balanced and transparent. When this sphere is unbalanced, it leads to feeling taken advantage of, being consistently burdened with responsibility, or feeling fundamentally betrayed by a lack of truthfulness. The relationship shifts from a partnership to a dynamic of primary and secondary roles, where one person carries the weight while the other enjoys the leisure. Defining these needs means establishing a standard of justice in your personal life. You are seeking a connection where both parties arrive with equal dignity and contribute with equal seriousness to the shared space. Values as the internal compass. Beyond these specific needs, you must also clarify your core values. Needs are what you require to function. Values are what you believe is fundamentally good, right, and beautiful. Your values act as the compass guiding your choices. For instance, if trust is a core value, then any pattern of evasiveness or half-truths becomes a non-negotiable boundary violation. If beauty or harmony is a core value, you might set a boundary that dictates your living space must remain orderly, or that your interactions must maintain a certain level of grace and kindness, even during disagreement. When you align your boundaries with your deepest values, they stop feeling like restrictive rules and start feeling like a natural extension of who you are. This is the difference between setting a boundary because you are angry and setting a boundary because you are centered and true to yourself. The latter is powerful, the former is reactive. The fear of clarity. As you begin to list these non-negotiables, you may notice a subtle anxiety creeping in. This anxiety is often rooted in a fear. The fear that if you define your needs too clearly, you will be rejected, or that your requirements are somehow too much. We have often been conditioned to believe that flexibility and accommodation are virtues, and they are, until they cross the line into self-abandonment. It's vital to reframe this fear. When you clearly state what you require to be healthy, you are not being demanding, you are being inviting. You are inviting only those connections capable of meeting you at a mature, reciprocal level. You are filtering out the relationships that thrive on your lack of clarity, thereby making space for those relationships that cherish your wholeness. A truly equal partner is not intimidated by your clarity. They are attracted to it. They see your self-awareness as a sign of emotional maturity, recognizing that a person who cares for their own well-being is capable of caring for the relationship itself. The foundation for equal partnership. Once you have established your core needs and values, you have created the template for attracting an equal. This template serves two primary functions. 1. The internal barometer. Your clarified needs become an emotional checklist. If you consistently feel that one of your key needs, say, the need for reciprocal listening, is not being met, you have an objective measure that tells you the relationship is out of balance. This moves the evaluation out of the realm of vague feelings and into the realm of factual observation. 2. The external filter. Your energy changes when you are clear. People who tend toward control or imbalance instinctively seek those who are uncertain or easily pliable. When you know your boundaries, your very presence signals strength and equilibrium. You communicate through your demeanor that you are not available for imbalance. In essence, clarity is the first and finest boundary you will ever set. It is an internal limit that dictates which external realities you will accept. Take the time now to sit with this process. Give yourself the gift of clear definition. Know your rhythm, know your key signature, and know the elegant parameters of your garden. Only then can you begin the next step, gracefully communicating and upholding those necessary limits. When you are rooted in this self-knowledge, the entire process of setting and maintaining boundaries shifts from a conflict avoidance strategy to a graceful, affirmative declaration of your inherent worth. Reflection. Identify your single most important core value in a relationship, e.g., honesty, calmness, support, growth. Now, consider one specific, actionable need that directly supports that value in the sphere of time, emotion, or integrity. Write it down. This simple act of definition is the first true act of rebuilding your foundation. Chapter 3. The Psychology of Controllers. We've established the vital importance of knowing your own needs and values. This internal clarity acts as a powerful anchor. Now, We turn our attention outward to understand the dynamics that attempt to unbalance that anchor. The people who consistently overstep boundaries are often labeled as difficult, but understanding their behavior through a psychological lens, rather than a moral one, is the key to protecting yourself gracefully. These individuals aren't necessarily villains. They are simply people who unconsciously or consciously thrive in the space created by imbalance. They are drawn to those who are hesitant to claim their space, much like water seeks the lowest point. The goal here is not judgment, but protection and grace. When you understand the traits of control-seeking behavior, you can recognize the patterns early, detach emotionally, and respond with calm, firm authority instead of reactive frustration. The landscape of control. Control-seeking behavior is fundamentally an attempt to create stability and predictability for oneself, often at the expense of another person's autonomy. It is a misalignment of energy, where the individual tries to manage their own internal world by manipulating the external world around them, particularly the people in it. This behavior is rooted in a fundamental lack of internal equilibrium. The controller is usually someone who struggles with insecurity, anxiety, or a deep-seated fear of abandonment or chaos. To compensate, they seek to manage people and circumstances, believing that if they can maintain strict order externally, their internal world will remain safe. They are not interested in an equal partnership. They are interested in a predictable dynamic where their needs are consistently prioritized, often without having to ask directly or engage in reciprocal discussion. Traits of control-seeking behavior. To defend your boundaries, you need to recognize the subtle signals. Control rarely announces itself with a loud, aggressive shout. It often begins with a soft, insidious whisper of convenience and manipulation. 1. The invalidation of your feelings. A primary tool of control is the dismissal of your reality. When you attempt to express a need or a boundary, the controller will often respond by minimizing, dismissing, or even mocking your feelings. You're overreacting. It was just a joke. Why are you so sensitive? I don't know why you're making such a big deal out of this. This invalidation is designed to confuse you and make you doubt your perception. If you believe your feelings are irrational, you'll be less likely to trust your internal barometer and less likely to enforce the boundaries those feelings are signaling. This technique aims to maintain imbalance by keeping you perpetually questioning your right to clarity. 2. The weaponization of guilt. This is perhaps the most emotionally draining tactic. A controller can use guilt to discourage your assertion of independence. When you try to set a limit, such as declining an invitation or refusing a request for help, they may respond with emotional fallout. I guess I just can't count on anyone. After all I've done for you, you can't do this one thing. I'm going to be completely alone now, and it's fine, I'll manage. This puts the burden of their feelings directly onto your shoulders. It makes you feel that your boundary is not just an assertion of self-care, but an act of cruelty or betrayal. The aim is to make the emotional cost of setting the boundary higher than the discomfort of just giving in. 3. The constant shifting of goalposts, the wants versus needs confusion. A controller often blurs the line between a genuine need and a simple preference or desire. They treat their wants as if they are urgent, life-and-death necessities, requiring immediate attention and accommodation from you. This creates a pervasive sense of urgency and obligation in your life. You feel constantly on call, often pulled into minor dramas or crises that require you to drop your own priorities. Their lack of distinction between a true crisis and a minor inconvenience ensures that your time and energy remain available and unprotected. 4. The disregard for reciprocity. In any healthy, balanced relationship, There is a fundamental understanding that favors and emotional support flow both ways. Controllers operate on a one-way street. They may demand your time, attention, or resources, but they become evasive, forgetful, or suddenly busy when you request the same from them. This creates a dynamic of constant giving and minimal receiving. They may possess charm and charisma that makes you want to help them, but they lack the genuine emotional maturity to return that generosity with equity. They seek to attract resources without having to invest their own. Protecting yourself gracefully. Understanding these behaviors is your greatest shield. It allows you to depersonalize the interaction. You realize, this is not about me being wrong. This is about them trying to restore their own internal imbalance by tipping my scale. Here are the key strategies for responding with grace and authority. The power of emotional detachment. The most effective protection against a controller is to stop taking their emotional responses personally. When they weaponize guilt or invalidate your feelings, recognize that this is a tactic, not a reflection of your worth. Do not engage with the drama or the guilt trip. Imagine a calm, invisible screen between their emotional response and your core self. Let the storm rage on the other side of the screen while you remain perfectly centered. Your response should be steady, measured, and focused only on the boundary. The principle of the broken record. Controllers often try to debate, negotiate, or emotionally manipulate you out of your boundary. Your response must be clear, concise, and repeatable. Do not get pulled into justifying or explaining your feelings, as this gives them material to invalidate. If the boundary is, I cannot talk about work after 6 p.m., and they call at 8 p.m. with an urgent request, your response should be a variation of the same calm statement. I understand this feels urgent, but I am unavailable for work discussions right now. We can address this first thing tomorrow morning. If they persist, I know you feel stressed, but I am unavailable to discuss this until the morning. The boundary is not the content. It is the consistency and the delivery. This unwavering calm authority signals that the boundary is not a negotiable emotional reaction, but a firm rule, focusing on behavior, not character. When communicating your limits, focus on the specific action or behavior you will or will not tolerate, rather than attacking the person's character. This keeps the conversation focused on equity and respect rather than conflict. Instead of saying, "You are always so inconsiderate when you interrupt me," say, "I need to finish my thought without interruption. If I am interrupted, I will take a 5-minute pause and then resume." This frames the boundary as a clear, manageable expectation for harmonious interaction, inviting them to participate in the balance rather than placing them on the defensive. Attracting the equal. By recognizing and firmly deflecting these control tactics, you are not simply pushing people away, you are refining your magnet. Control-seeking individuals are repelled by genuine self-possession and calm authority. They will quickly learn that the usual tactics of guilt and invalidation do not work on you, and they will either step back or choose to respect your limits. On the other hand, people who are already emotionally mature and seeking genuine reciprocity are drawn to your strength. They see your clear boundaries as a sign that you are a person who respects herself and therefore is capable of respecting them. They recognize that a balanced partnership requires two whole people, not one person filling the void of another. This realization is profoundly empowering. You do not need to fight to be respected. You simply need to stand centered in your clarity, and the resulting calm will naturally repel the imbalance and attract the equal. Reflection. Recall a recent interaction where you felt invalidated or pressured by guilt. Identify the specific control tactic used: invalidation, guilt, urgency. Now, imagine responding with the broken record technique. What is the one sentence, calm and firm, you will use next time to redirect the conversation back to your boundary without giving an explanation? Practice this internal response. Chapter 4. Communicating Limits with Calm Authority. We have established the internal clarity necessary for strong boundaries, knowing your needs, values, and the patterns of imbalance you wish to avoid. Now, the essential work begins, translating that inner clarity into external communication. This is often where the entire process collapses. You might know exactly what you need, but the moment you try to voice it, fear of conflict or rejection takes over. The well-defined internal boundary dissolves into an awkward, mumbled suggestion, or worse, bursts out as an angry, resentful demand. Neither approach leads to the genuine respect you seek. Communicating limits is a refined art. It is less about conflict and more about composure. It is the graceful act of stating a truth about yourself and your requirements for participation. Your goal is not to win an argument, but to set a clear, mutually beneficial expectation that invites equality into the relationship. The mindset shift from defense to definition. Before uttering a single word, you must internalize a fundamental shift in perspective. Stop viewing boundaries as defensive shields you raise in a moment of stress. Instead, see them as clear, calm definitions of how you wish to be treated, delivered from a place of unshakable inner peace. A defensive boundary is often reactive. It sounds like, "You always do this and I'm sick of it." This invites an argument because it focuses on the other person's perceived failure. A definitive boundary is proactive and self-focused. It sounds like, "To keep our relationship running smoothly, I need to adjust how we handle X, Y, or Z." This invites a measured discussion about structure. This shift moves the boundary from a perceived attack to a shared understanding. When you communicate from a place of calm authority, the listener tends to drop their defenses and engage with the content of the limit, rather than the emotion behind it. Poise, in this context, is your greatest form of protection. The power of the I statement structure. The foundation of graceful boundary communication is the I statement. This simple linguistic structure is crucial because it ensures you own your feelings and needs without assigning blame, which immediately de-escalates potential conflict. The most effective boundary statements contain three key components. 1. The observation. Describe the specific behavior or situation that creates the imbalance. Keep this factual, neutral, and devoid of judgment. Example: when calls come in after 8 in the evening. 2. The feeling or need. State the impact that behavior has on you or your ability to function. This is about your inner reality which cannot be debated. Example: I feel stressed and find it difficult to transition into my personal downtime. 3. The clear request, the limit. State with absolute clarity the simple, actionable adjustment you require going forward. Example: so I need all non-emergency communication to be sent by text after 7 p.m. Combining them. When calls come in after 8 in the evening, I feel stressed and find it difficult to transition into my personal downtime. So I need all non-emergency communication to be sent by text after 7 p.m. Notice the rhythmic flow of this structure. It moves logically from an external reality to an internal experience, and then to a clear resolution. This composition is both respectful and impossible to ignore because it defines your space. Specificity invites respect. A vague limit is an open invitation for it to be tested or ignored. If your request is simply, "Please stop being so demanding," that is too subjective. What does demanding mean? What is the specific action that triggers your discomfort? Clarity is the ultimate expression of grace. It is kinder to be clearly explicit than vaguely resentful. Instead of, I need you to be more supportive. Too vague. Try. I need our conversations about my career to focus on solutions and resources, rather than dwelling on obstacles. If you find yourself listing problems, I will ask you to switch to offering one constructive suggestion, specific and actionable, instead of, I need you to help out more around the house. Too vague. Try to ensure our workload is equitable. I need you to be responsible for preparing dinner on Tuesdays and Thursdays without needing a reminder. Specific, scheduled, and measurable. The more clearly you articulate the new expectation, the less room there is for confusion, passive aggression, or the controller's favorite tool, misunderstanding. Specificity ensures that any violation of the boundary is a conscious choice, not an accidental oversight. The composure of delivery. The true power of the boundary lies in its delivery. You can have the most perfectly structured I statement, but if you deliver it with trembling anxiety or boiling anger, the message is overshadowed by the emotion. Calm authority requires emotional neutrality. When you communicate, strive for a tone that is warm, conversational, and completely unapologetic. Do not hedge. Avoid phrases that undermine your authority. I'm sorry to ask this, but, or I hope this isn't too much, but. You are defining a necessary requirement for your health and the health of the connection. There is nothing to apologize for. Maintain eye contact if applicable. In face-to-face communication, steady, non-aggressive eye contact signals that you mean what you say and are fully present in your truth. Use a steady, measured pace. Speak a little slower than you normally would. This pace demonstrates composure and ensures the recipient has time to absorb the specific language of your request. A rushed communication suggests anxiety. A measured communication implies confidence and finality. The entire demeanor should communicate. This is not a debate. This is an announcement of how I manage my energy, and I am simply informing you so we can continue to interact harmoniously. Future pacing. Setting the consequence. A boundary without a clear, stated consequence is just a suggestion. Consequences are not punishments. They are simply the natural, logical outcome of a limit being ignored. They are part of the balanced equation that provides structure. The consequence should be simple, emotionally neutral, and related directly to the boundary itself. This is often called future pacing, as you are defining what will happen next time the line is crossed. Boundary. I need to leave parties by 11 p.m. because I need 8 hours of sleep to function well. Consequence, future pacing. If you are not ready to leave by 10:45 p.m., I will call a rideshare for myself and will see you at home. Boundary. I need us to avoid using harsh language or swearing during disagreements. Consequence, future pacing. If harsh language is used, I will immediately pause the conversation and walk away, and we can resume the discussion 20 minutes later when we are both calmer. The consequence focuses entirely on your own action, what you will do to protect your space. You are not threatening the other person. You are simply clarifying the steps you will take to maintain your personal equilibrium. This removes the need for arguments, allowing you to execute the consequence with grace and integrity when the boundary is inevitably tested. The art of the graceful exit. Once you have communicated the limit using the I statement structure, calm tone, and clear consequence, the most elegant move is to exit the subject with finality. Do not linger. Do not repeat, justify, or negotiate unless the other person is genuinely seeking clarification on the logistics. If they try to drag you into a debate, but why do you need to leave so early? Do not engage with the debate. Simply repeat the core statement with slightly different words or affirm your need and then redirect. Response. I understand you may be disappointed, but as I mentioned, My need for consistent sleep is non-negotiable for my health. I look forward to catching up with you tomorrow. Then immediately pivot the conversation to a neutral, shared topic. Speaking of tomorrow, are you planning to go to the market? By stating the limit and immediately moving on, you signal that the topic is closed. You are affirming that the boundary is settled and that the relationship, the pleasant interaction, can continue, but only within the newly defined, balanced parameters. Communicating with calm authority is not a single confrontation. It is a continuous, gracious practice of self-affirmation. It ensures that your needs are not just heard, but respected, establishing a foundation for a truly equal and harmonious partnership. This calm poise is what naturally attracts others who value structure, clarity, and genuine reciprocity. Reflection. Think of one simple boundary you need to set this week. Draft the three-part I statement, observation, need, and clear request, and then draft the simple, self-focused consequence. Practice saying this statement aloud, maintaining a slow, steady, and warm tone. Feel the quiet power of speaking your truth without a trace of apology or aggression. This practice is the bridge from inner truth to external harmony. Chapter 5. Saying No Without Guilt. We've established the map of our inner needs and the compass of calm communication. Now we arrive at one of the most psychologically challenging hurdles in boundary work, the actual moment of refusal. Saying no is often the sharpest point of the boundary, and for many people who value harmony and connection, it feels like an inherently unkind or confrontational act. We fear the resulting silence, the disappointment on a loved one's face, or the possibility of an uncomfortable moment. This fear of temporary social discomfort drives us back into the familiar, but ultimately draining, territory of saying yes when we desperately mean no. The consequence of this pattern is internal dissonance. When you agree to something out of obligation, a tiny sliver of resentment attaches itself to that agreement. Over time, these small slivers accumulate, eroding the genuine warmth you feel for the other person and replacing it with a quiet, bitter obligation. This is the opposite of the balanced, gracious harmony we seek. The key to mastering this chapter is to understand that saying no is not a rejection of the person or the relationship. It is a powerful affirmation of your commitment to yourself. When delivered with poise and sincerity, a refusal is simply an honest statement of capacity, and that honesty is what truly sustains a relationship. Reclaiming the virtue of honesty. We often mistake chronic accommodation for kindness, and we mistake avoidance of disagreement for peace. But true kindness requires honesty, and true peace requires integrity. When you say yes out of fear or guilt, you are actually being dishonest. You are promising a gift of your time and energy that you cannot genuinely afford or are not truly willing to give. This creates a psychological debt you pay later with resentment. By contrast, saying no assertively but kindly is an act of grace toward both yourself and the other person. You honor your capacity, and you prevent the other person from receiving a gift that comes wrapped in your resentment. You give them a clear signal, allowing them to adjust and find a resource that is genuinely available. This mutual honesty is the bedrock of equal partnership. The guilt response, a conditioned habit. Why does the guilt surface so quickly? It is often a deeply conditioned response. Many of us were raised to be good listeners, helpful friends, or accommodating partners, where our worth felt tied to our utility to others. When we refuse, our inner monologue screams, "I am failing to be good," and the guilt becomes an internal pressure to quickly reverse the refusal. To disarm the guilt, you must recognize it as a feeling, not a fact. The feeling of guilt is not evidence that you've done something wrong. It is simply evidence that you have broken an old, self-sacrificing pattern. Acknowledge the feeling without letting it dictate your behavior. You can feel guilty and still stand firm in your clear, calm decision. The formula for the graceful no. A graceful refusal should be brief, respectful, and require absolutely no lengthy justification. The more you explain, the more material you give the other person to debate, negotiate, or guilt-trip you. Here is a simple, three-part formula for a clean, guilt-free refusal. 1. The brief acknowledgement validation. Start by acknowledging the request and validating the person's need without committing to it. This demonstrates respect for them. Example: thank you so much for thinking of me for that. Example: I appreciate you reaching out about this project. 2. The clear, simple refusal, the boundary. Deliver the no clearly and without apology. Use definite language. Example: I'm not able to take that on right now. Example: my schedule is completely full this week, so I have to decline. 3. The kind buffer, the bridge. If appropriate and genuine, offer a small, limited alternative or simply express good wishes. This softens the refusal without compromising the boundary, showing you value the connection. Example: but I'd be happy to suggest 2 other people who might be a great fit. Example: I hope you find someone wonderful to help, and I look forward to catching up with you later in the week. Putting it together: thank you for thinking of me for the committee, but I'm not able to take on any new commitments this quarter. I hope it's a huge success. This response is elegant, complete, and firm. It respects the asker, respects your time, and closes the door on negotiation without being cold. The power of the softened delivery. While the message is firm, the delivery must remain warm, especially when dealing with loved ones. Remember that our goal is not emotional distance, but healthy distance. Use affection. When refusing a loved one, include a genuine expression of affection to separate the no to the request from a no to the person. I love you dearly, but I need that time for rest. Focus on capacity, not willingness. Frame the refusal around your capacity or existing commitments, not your lack of desire to help. This keeps the focus on your life structure, which is less debatable. I'm truly at my limit right now and need to maintain a clear slate for the next few days. Sounds much cleaner than, I just don't feel like doing that. Avoid the word try. Never say, I'll try to make it work. The word try signals that your no is a flimsy suggestion that can be overcome with a little more pressure. Your refusal must be a definitive answer. The 2 most common refusal scenarios. 2 particular requests often trip up people who struggle with boundaries: the time request and the emotional request. 1. The time request, the favor. When asked to dedicate time you don't have, the guilt is often intense because the task seems small. Bad refusal, guilt-ridden. I wish I could, but I'm so busy and my calendar is a mess and my kids need me, and I'm just terrible at managing time, so maybe next time. Too much justification, too much self-criticism, too weak. Good refusal, graceful. I truly appreciate the offer, but my capacity for external commitments is full right now. Thank you, and I hope it goes well. 2. The emotional request, the dumping. When someone attempts to lean on you for extensive emotional support without reciprocal exchange, you must protect your mental space. Bad refusal, evasive. Oh wow, that sounds awful. I don't know what to say. I guess you should talk to someone else. Avoidant and unhelpful. Good refusal, balanced. That sounds like a heavy situation and I care about you. My ability to offer dedicated support is limited today, but I have time for a 10-minute call this evening, and I can listen without giving advice. Or I could help you find a professional to talk to. Offers a small, specific, time-bound limit that honors the connection while protecting your full energy reserve. Notice how the graceful refusal always seeks to maintain the relationship's overall harmony by being honest, which prevents the buildup of resentment. The resentment created by a reluctant yes is far more damaging to connection than the honesty of a gracious no. When you exit a conversation having said a clean no, you might still feel a twinge of guilt, but you will also feel an immediate, profound sense of integrity and relief. You have preserved your energy, honored your schedule, and reinforced the truth that you are the final authority over your own time and space. This act of self-affirmation is what draws equals to you. They see your self-respect and understand that any relationship with you will be one of mutual consideration, not constant accommodation. This is the definition of balanced connection. Reflection. Identify a scenario where you most frequently feel pressured to say yes, e.g., social invitations, family requests, work demands. Now draft a simple, sincere, three-part refusal for that exact scenario. Practice delivering it with a kind, firm expression. Commit to deploying this refusal next time you feel the pressure, knowing you are choosing integrity over temporary comfort. Chapter 6. Enforcing Boundaries Consistently. You have done the hard work of gaining clarity on your needs, communicating your limits with calm authority, and practicing the graceful refusal. You have built the beautiful, elegant fence around your personal garden. But the fence is not a boundary. The boundary is the consistent maintenance of that fence. This chapter addresses the crucial step that separates mere suggestion from genuine expectation: consistency. A boundary that is enforced 99% of the time is not a boundary. It is a suggestion that occasionally carries weight. To truly attract equals and repel imbalance, your limits must become a predictable, reliable part of the relationship structure. Consistency signals respect for yourself and clarity for others. It transforms the limit from an emotional reaction to a logical, external rule of engagement. When you are consistent, you teach others, without having to say a word, that you mean what you say and that your personal equilibrium is non-negotiable. The inevitable testing phase. When a boundary is first set, there is almost always a testing phase. This is not always malicious. It is often the natural reflex of a pattern that is being disrupted. People, especially those who benefited from your previous lack of limits, will subconsciously attempt to return to the old dynamic simply because it is familiar and comfortable for them. They might try subtle tactics. The plea for an exception. Can we just make an exception this one time? It's really important. The emotional pushback. They may react with sadness, anger, or disappointment to see if you will cave to soothe their feelings. The forgetful oversight. They simply forget the boundary, attempting to slip back into the old behavior to see if you will enforce the consequence. If you give in during the testing phase, you have actually taught them the true boundary, that if they push hard enough or appeal emotionally enough, the rule will crumble. This sets a dangerous precedent and invites continuous negotiation. To maintain your harmony, you must treat the boundary not as a fragile emotional construct, but as a firm, immovable structure. The three pillars of consistent enforcement. Consistent enforcement relies on three interconnected pillars: immediacy, emotional neutrality, and self-focus. 1. Immediacy. Respond, don't wait. The moment a boundary is violated, you must acknowledge it immediately. A delayed response allows the overstep to settle and makes the eventual enforcement feel more reactive and aggressive. If your boundary is, "I cannot discuss heavy topics after 8 p.m., and someone brings up a heavy topic at 8:15 p.m., you must stop the conversation right then. Immediate response. Wait, I'm pausing this right now. As we discussed, I need to protect my evening for rest, so we will pick this up tomorrow at lunch. We can talk about neutral subjects until then. You don't need to be harsh. You just need to be swift. The promptness reinforces that the boundary is always on, like an invisible, gentle energy field that immediately redirects traffic back to the proper lane. This swiftness minimizes the time spent in the uncomfortable, unbalanced space. 2. Emotional neutrality. Enforce the rule, not your anger. This is perhaps the most difficult pillar to maintain, yet it is the most vital for long-term success. Enforcement must be delivered with the same calm authority used when setting the boundary. If you enforce the boundary with anger, you are allowing the other person to pull you out of your center. You make the situation about your mood rather than about the rule. The moment you become angry, the other person shifts focus from their action to your reaction. They can then claim, "You're just overreacting," or "Why are you always so mad?" distracting from the true issue, which is their lack of respect for the defined limit. Instead, let your emotional tone reflect that this is routine. You are simply confirming the natural flow of the relationship. State the consequence or correction as if you are simply reading a signpost. "I see you've gone past the limit. This is the consequence we agreed upon." When you remain calm, you deny the controller the emotional leverage they seek. You are demonstrating that your internal harmony is so strong that even a boundary violation cannot shake it. 3. Self-focus. Enforce your consequence. Remember, the consequence you established in Chapter 4 focuses on your action, not theirs. Consistent enforcement means consistently executing the consequence you set for yourself. If your partner continues to leave dishes in the sink after you ask them to stop, and your stated boundary is, "I will only wash the dishes I use myself," then consistency means only washing your own dishes. You do not argue, nag, or lecture. You simply execute your boundary. If your friend calls you late after you establish the no calls after 9 p.m. rule, your consequence is to not answer the phone. If they text to ask why you didn't answer, your calm, brief response is, "I didn't answer because I turned my ringer off after 9 p.m. as I mentioned. Text me tomorrow." You cannot control their compliance, but you have absolute control over your response. Consistency means always choosing the self-protective, self-focused response over the emotionally reactive one. This quiet, unwavering action is far more powerful than any verbal argument. The long-term benefits of consistency. The beauty of consistency is that it dramatically simplifies your life and refines your relationships. 1. It reduces conflict. In the short term, enforcement might feel like conflict. In the long term, consistency prevents conflict. When people know exactly where the line is and that the consequence is predictable, they stop testing the boundary. They move from challenging the limit to simply adapting to the rule. You spend less time explaining and fighting, and more time enjoying genuine, harmonious connection. 2. It builds trust and respect. People actually feel safer in relationships with clear rules. A consistent boundary signals that you are reliable, trustworthy, and a person of integrity. They trust that your yes means yes, and your no means no. This foundation of clarity allows for a deeper, more genuine connection than one built on shaky, inconsistent accommodation. And equal respects clear structure. 3. It deepens your self-trust. Every time you execute a boundary consistently, you deposit a brick in the foundation of your own self-trust. You prove to yourself that you are worthy of your own protection and that you are capable of upholding your standards. This internal certainty is the true source of your calm authority, making future boundary setting almost effortless. Consistency is the quiet practice of self-affirmation. It is the steady, graceful maintenance that ensures the structure of equality remains sound. It's the difference between a fence that keeps things out and a stable, elegant container that holds the best, most reciprocal relationships in your life. Your commitment to being consistent is your commitment to your own lasting peace. You are not being rigid. You are being reliable to yourself first, and by extension, to everyone you invite into your life. Reflection. Think about a boundary you have recently set that was tested. Did you waver? If so, what was the internal feeling that made you cave, e.g., guilt, fear of anger, desire to please? Now commit to a single, small boundary enforcement this week. Plan the simple, self-focused action you will take the moment the boundary is tested. This quiet act of follow-through will be your most powerful step toward lasting harmony. Chapter 7: Attracting Equals. We have moved through the foundational stages of boundary work. Defining your needs, recognizing controlling behaviors, communicating limits with calm authority, saying no without guilt, and establishing unwavering consistency. This consistent action has restored your personal harmony and proven your commitment to yourself. Now we arrive at the natural, beautiful outcome of all this effort: attracting equals. The goal of setting strong boundaries is not to push people away. It is to refine your relational energy. When you define your space, you create a powerful filter. The people who respect your energy and appreciate your clarity are naturally drawn closer, while those who thrive on imbalance are gracefully deflected. You stop attracting controllers who seek to take energy and start inviting equals who seek to exchange it. This shift moves your relationships from a series of accommodations to a foundation of mutual respect, which is the truest definition of equality. The energy of self-possession. Think of your boundaries as a confident, self-assured aura. This aura speaks volumes before you ever utter a single word. It communicates, "I am centered, I am whole. My time and myself are sacred." People are profoundly affected by the energy of self-possession. An equal is drawn to this energy because they, too, are centered. They recognize that a person who respects their own needs is capable of respecting the needs of others. They are looking for a partner in life, friendship, or business who is grounded, predictable, and has their own full life, not someone who is empty or overly available. Your wholeness is a prerequisite for a healthy connection. A controller, conversely, finds this energy unappealing and difficult to penetrate. Their tactics of guilt or negotiation simply bounce off your composure. They instinctively move on because they sense that the cost of engaging with you, the effort required to respect your limits, is too high for the imbalanced gain they seek. You don't have to fight them. Your simple, consistent presence filters them out. Understanding reciprocal value. The core difference between an equal and a controller is their approach to value. A controller sees you as a resource to be consumed. What can I take from their time, their emotional support, or their generosity? Their valuation is one-sided. An equal sees you as a co-creator of value. How can our combined efforts, our shared ideas, and our mutual support enrich both of our lives? Their valuation is reciprocal. Attracting equals means actively seeking and creating relationships where the flow of giving and receiving is visibly, intentionally balanced. This balance doesn't mean you tally every single favor. It means there is a felt sense of equity and mutual investment over time. This feeling of equality manifests in subtle but profound ways. In conversation, an equal listens attentively, asks questions about your life, and doesn't dominate the conversation. The exchange feels like a graceful dance, not a performance and an audience. In effort, an equal is mindful of your time. They show up when they say they will, they follow through on their commitments, and they initiate planning and effort just as often as you do. In support, when you are struggling, an equal offers help without being asked, and does so in a way that is genuinely supportive, not burdensome or conditional. Making space for mutuality. The process of attracting equals requires a crucial step: making space. When your life is cluttered with unbalanced relationships, those draining connections consume your available emotional, mental, and physical bandwidth. Even if a truly equal partner were to appear, you wouldn't have the clear, open space to invite them in. You would be too exhausted from managing the high-maintenance demands of the unbalanced connections. By establishing and enforcing boundaries, you are systematically creating vacancies in your life, vacancies in your schedule, vacancies in your emotional reservoir, and vacancies in your mental processing space. This cleared space serves as an irresistible invitation for balanced people. When they encounter you, they find someone who is, one, fully present, because you aren't resentful or drained from prior compromises; two, clear on expectations, because you communicate with clarity and composure; three, respectful of their space, because you respect your own, you naturally respect theirs. An equal doesn't want to feel like they are rescuing you or filling a void in your life. They want to connect with someone who is already full, secure, and ready to share their overflow of energy, time, and spirit. Your strong boundaries signal that you are precisely that person. Fostering and nurturing equal partnerships. Once you recognize and attract an equal, the boundary work shifts from defense to maintenance and appreciation. You must actively nurture the mutual respect that forms the basis of the connection. 1. Practice reciprocal vulnerability. Trust is deepened through mutual, measured vulnerability. An equal shares their authentic self, their struggles, and their needs, just as you do. Ensure that you are both opening up in balanced proportion, creating a safe container for emotional truth. 2. Celebrate autonomy. The truest sign of an equal partnership is the celebration of individual autonomy. Your relationship should feel like an expansion of your life, not a confinement. Encourage each other's individual passions, friendships, and goals, understanding that two well-defined circles that intersect create a stronger, more resilient bond than two circles trying to merge into one. 3. Address imbalance immediately. Even in the best relationships, slight imbalances will naturally occur. When you notice the scale tipping, perhaps you've been doing most of the emotional labor, or they've been shouldering most of the practical tasks. Address it immediately and gently. I've noticed I'm feeling a little depleted this week. Could we make sure we have dedicated rest time this weekend? I realized I asked you for 3 big favors recently. I'd love to know what I can proactively do to support you next week to rebalance the effort. This immediate, non-accusatory correction keeps the dynamic from slipping into the old pattern of quiet resentment. It honors the core value of equity. 4. Commit to mutual growth. Equals view boundaries and challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for mutual growth. They are willing to listen when you express a need, and they feel safe expressing their own needs because they know you will respect them. The effort you put into setting and maintaining your boundaries is an investment in your relational future. By doing so, you have defined the caliber of connection you deserve, and you have become the person who is naturally magnetized to that caliber. You are not settling for anything less than a respectful, supportive, and truly reciprocal partnership. This is the magnificent gift of self-clarity. Reflection. Look at your most balanced relationship right now. What specific boundary, whether unspoken or defined, is consistently respected in that dynamic? What can you learn from the ease and generosity of that connection? And how can you invite that same effortless respect into other areas of your life? Chapter 8. Handling resistance gracefully. You've achieved the beautiful, magnetic state of attracting equals. But even the healthiest relationships experience friction. When you set a boundary, whether with a controller or even a genuine equal who is simply accustomed to an old dynamic, you will inevitably encounter resistance. This resistance isn't necessarily a sign that your boundary is wrong. It's a sign that the established comfort zone has been disrupted. For a relationship to evolve into a more balanced structure, this disruption is necessary. Your task is to meet that friction with calm authority and integrity, ensuring that the boundary holds without sacrificing your grace. The nature of resistance. Resistance comes in many forms, and understanding these forms allows you to depersonalize them and respond strategically. It shifts the dynamic from an emotional confrontation to a simple observation and redirection. Confusion and negotiation is the most common and often least malicious form. The person genuinely might not understand the why or the how of the new limit. They may try to find loopholes or negotiate the terms. They might say, "But if you leave early, you'll miss the best part." Or, "Can we just compromise and do half the task?" Emotional pushback uses feelings to attempt to manipulate you into retreating. It relies heavily on the guilt we discussed in a previous chapter. They might try, "I'm so disappointed that you can't help me with this." Or even, "I thought we were closer than this. I guess I was wrong." Direct defiance is the testing phase in its most assertive form. The person openly ignores the limit to see if you will back down. They might call you after the agreed-upon cutoff time or bring up the forbidden topic immediately after you ask them to stop. Regardless of the form, the underlying message of resistance is the same. "I am uncomfortable with this change, and I would prefer things to go back to the way they were." Your job is to gently, firmly communicate. "I hear your discomfort, but the boundary stands." Strategy 1. The power of validation without retreat. When met with resistance, the natural human impulse is to defend, justify, or argue. This is a trap. Engaging in a long explanation gives the resisting party material to debate and shifts the focus from your need to their disappointment. The most graceful response is to validate the person's feeling without retracting the boundary. This is a powerful technique because it acknowledges their humanity while reinforcing your commitment to yourself. You are saying, "I see you, but also, I choose me." For example, if someone says, "I'm disappointed you can't make it to my party," avoid apologizing profusely or over-justifying. Instead, respond gracefully. "I hear your disappointment, and I'm sorry you feel that way. However, I need to stick to my decision to prioritize rest this weekend." If they try to negotiate with, "But it's just one little exception," don't give in. Hold your line. "I appreciate you asking, but I have to hold firm on this limit. Exceptions right now would not serve my need for balance." The graceful response is a demonstration of emotional maturity. You refuse to take responsibility for their feeling of disappointment, yet you confirm that you still care about them. You successfully separate the person from the request. Strategy 2. The broken record and the consequence. The broken record technique is your best defense against endless negotiation. When resistance pushes for a debate, you simply repeat your clear, calm, and brief statement. You don't get pulled into a swirling vortex of justifications. However, if the resistance moves from simple negotiation to defiance, meaning the person actively ignores the boundary, you must immediately and calmly move to the consequence. The consequence is the logical next step you defined when setting the boundary. Consider a work scenario where you set a clear boundary. "I need all work-related texts to stop by 7 p.m. If you text me after 7, I will not respond until the next morning." If your colleague texts you at 8:30 p.m. with an urgent-sounding question, your graceful enforcement is to not respond. You allow the consequence to happen. The next morning, you address the situation simply. I saw your text come in after my 7 p.m. cutoff, which is why I didn't reply. Regarding your question, the answer is X. The enforcement must be nonverbal whenever possible, or delivered in a brief, matter-of-fact tone. You are not lecturing. You are executing the predefined rule. You maintain your composure by letting the consequence do the heavy lifting, saving your energy for harmonious interactions. Strategy 3. Knowing when to distance. Most people, even those with controlling tendencies, will eventually adapt to your clear, consistent boundaries because the cost of fighting them is higher than the benefit of respecting them. They realize your structure is permanent. However, some individuals will resist with such intensity that they prove they are not interested in an equal partnership. They are only interested in control. These are the people who, when met with your boundary, react with extreme anger, continuous manipulation, or character attacks. When the resistance becomes a chronic, intentional campaign to break your will or erode your confidence, you must enact your most profound boundary, reevaluating the proximity of the relationship. Distance is a boundary. Temporary distance is taking a cooling-off period to regain your center. You might say, I can see we are not going to agree on this right now. I'm going to take a week of space, and we can reconnect next Tuesday. Redefining the role is changing the nature of the relationship. A high-maintenance friend might be downgraded to a social acquaintance you only see in group settings. Permanent distance, disengagement, is the final, graceful choice when the imbalance or disrespect is fundamentally threatening your peace and integrity. The ultimate act of self-respect is recognizing that you cannot force someone to be an equal, and you cannot build harmony with someone who actively seeks imbalance. The graceful response in this case is to calmly and permanently prioritize your own well-being. The confidence of integrity. Handling resistance gracefully reinforces the integrity of the entire system you've built. Every time you stand firm, you demonstrate a deep, quiet respect for yourself. This self-respect is the single greatest attraction factor for equals. You learn that conflict is not something to be avoided at all costs. Conflict, when managed with composure and clarity, is simply the process of defining your space. By responding to resistance with validation, repetition, and consistent consequence, you maintain your center, secure your boundaries, and preserve your ability to engage in the beautiful, balanced relationships you deserve. You uphold your own rules, and in doing so, you maintain your sovereign peace. Reflection. Think of the last time someone resisted a boundary you set. How did you respond? By defending, arguing, or retreating? Now, rewrite that interaction using the validation plus boundary technique. Practice the sentence that validates their feeling while holding firm to your limit. This exercise builds the muscle of graceful authority. Chapter 9. Protecting energy in all relationships. We've established the necessity of strong boundaries with partners and close friends, recognizing them as the foundation of equality. However, your personal equilibrium is affected by every interaction, not just the deep ones. Your energy field extends beyond your most intimate connections, encompassing colleagues, casual friends, extended family, and even brief professional encounters. The energy you bring to the world, your focus, your composure, and your positive outlook is a finite and valuable resource. It must be protected consistently across the entire spectrum of your social life. This chapter is about applying the principle of balanced boundaries universally, ensuring that your interactions, no matter how brief or distant, remain respectful, reciprocal, and contribute to your overall well-being. The spectrum of energy drains. Energy drains don't just come from control-seeking behavior. They come from imbalance in many forms. Recognizing these subtle shifts is key to gracefully guarding your energy reserve. The chronic complainer. This person uses you as an emotional dumping ground, focusing entirely on their problems without seeking solutions or showing interest in your life. Their conversation is a monologue of woe, leaving you feeling heavy and helpless. This is an energy exchange where only one person is offloading and the other is holding the weight. The time thief. This person consistently runs late, cancels last minute, or fills every planned minute with unnecessary tangents. Their lack of respect for your schedule and presence slowly bleeds your time and leaves you feeling disrespected and rushed. The crisis generator. This person lives in a perpetual state of emergency, turning minor inconveniences into high drama. They require immediate, intense emotional attention for things that could easily be managed with simple planning or patience. You end up being constantly pulled out of your center to handle someone else's preventable chaos. The common thread in all these situations is a lack of reciprocity and self-management. The person is outsourcing their emotional regulation or organizational skills onto you. To maintain your harmony, you must implement clear, graceful strategies that redirect these drains back to their source. Strategies for different spheres. The way you set a boundary with a casual acquaintance will differ from how you set one with a spouse. The language and proximity change, but the core principle, your right to peace, remains the same. 1. In professional and colleague relationships, the boundaries here must prioritize time and focus. The workplace often demands high availability, but this cannot come at the expense of your mental health or professional effectiveness. Set communication rules. Clearly define your response times. For non-urgent matters, use phrases like, "I only check email twice a day to maintain focus. I will respond by the end of the day." For urgent issues, clearly state the preferred channel. If it's truly urgent, please send a brief text, otherwise, email is best. This protects your mental bandwidth. Limit availability. If a colleague constantly drops by your desk to chat, you must establish a physical boundary. When they approach, stand up and greet them warmly, but immediately frame the time limit. "I'm happy to chat, but I only have 5 minutes right now before I need to dive back into this focused task." This maintains warmth while protecting your time autonomy. Protect physical space. If you work remotely, the boundary between home and work can be blurred. Be clear about your working hours and resist the temptation to check messages outside those times. The moment you break this rule, you signal that your personal time is interruptible. 2. With extended family and social acquaintances. These relationships often carry a strong weight of expectation, making boundary setting feel emotionally complex. Here, the focus is on protecting your emotional and social energy. Dealing with the complainer. You don't have to listen indefinitely or offer advice you don't have. You can gracefully redirect the energy. Wait for a natural pause and interrupt with gentle warmth. "Wow, that sounds really difficult. I know you'll figure it out. Shifting gears, I wanted to tell you about X." Alternatively, offer a time boundary. "I have about 5 more minutes to chat before I need to go, but I can listen for a bit longer." This gives them a clear signal that the time for offloading is structured, not endless. Managing advice givers. Some family members feel entitled to offer unsolicited opinions on your life. Do not engage in an argument to defend your choices. A calm, authoritative deflection works best. "Thank you for your concern. I'm completely satisfied with the way I've chosen to handle that." Or, "That's an interesting perspective and I'll take it under consideration," and immediately change the subject. Your peaceful resolution is non-negotiable. 3. Protecting your emotional space in public. Even brief encounters can be draining if you don't hold your center. This often involves protecting your emotional state from other people's chaos or drama. The shield of neutrality. When exposed to highly reactive or intense emotional drama that doesn't concern you, visualize a peaceful distance. You can be polite and present without absorbing the feelings. If a person tries to pull you into their vortex of conflict, simply state, "I'm sorry you're going through that, but I need to remain neutral here." This is your right to stand outside of unnecessary chaos, mastering the quick exit. If a conversation turns toxic, judgmental, or overly draining, you have a graceful exit strategy. Don't feel obligated to stay until the bitter end. A simple, firm departure is often best. "It was great seeing you, but I need to go. Have a wonderful rest of your day." No justification, no apology, just a clean, kind departure that honors your commitment to self-care. The self-correction of balanced boundaries. Protecting your energy universally is a continuous practice of self-correction. You are constantly monitoring the flow of energy. Am I giving more than is comfortable? Am I receiving the respect I deserve? When you consistently protect your energy across all relationships, two powerful things happen. 1. Your core relationships deepen. By not allowing your energy to be dissipated by peripheral drains, you have more focus, patience, and genuine warmth available for your equals, the people who truly fill your cup. You bring your best self to your deepest connections. 2. You become a consistent energy source. You become known as someone who is calm, reliable, and present because you are not constantly running on fumes. People are naturally attracted to that stable energy, and they instinctively approach you with greater respect for your time and capacity. You attract more people who seek the same balance you possess. Protecting your energy is not about becoming a guarded fortress. It is about becoming a well-regulated system. It is the daily, graceful commitment to maintaining your inner scale at zero, ensuring every interaction is one of genuine exchange, not quiet depletion. Your harmonious life depends on it. Reflection. Think of one peripheral relationship, a colleague, an extended family member, or a social acquaintance that frequently drains your energy. Identify the specific drain time, emotional monologue chaos. Commit to trying one of the strategies listed, a communication boundary, a polite redirection, or a quick exit, the next time you interact. You are reclaiming your precious resource, one interaction at a time. Chapter 10. Balancing Generosity and Self-Care. We've focused intently on the structure and execution of boundaries, the necessary no that protects your inner harmony. However, a life lived entirely behind a defensive wall is not a life of true balance. Your deeper nature seeks to connect, to share, and to enrich others' lives through genuine warmth and generosity. The challenge, then, is this. How do you remain a person of open-hearted generosity while simultaneously committing to unwavering self-care? The answer lies in understanding that boundaries are not the opposite of generosity. They are the container that makes true, sustainable generosity possible. Unbounded giving leads to burnout and resentment. Giving within a defined capacity ensures that your kindness is authentic, sustainable, and comes from a place of fullness, not depletion. Redefining true generosity. We often confuse obligation with generosity. When you help someone because you feel you must, out of guilt, fear of rejection, or a desire to be seen as the helpful one, that is not generosity. It's a transaction motivated by external validation. It drains you and often breeds quiet resentment toward the recipient. True generosity is an overflow. It is the spontaneous, joyful act of giving time, attention, or resource because you have an abundance of it and genuinely want to share. When you set strong boundaries, you replenish your internal reserves so consistently that your giving becomes an expression of joy, not duty. This shift is crucial. You move from being a resource that others extract from to a person who offers from a position of strength. The generosity of no. One of the most profound acts of generosity you can offer is the generosity of your truth. When you say a clear, kind no, you are being generous to the recipient in several ways. One, you give them clarity. You save them the time and ambiguity of a half-hearted yes, followed by a resentful performance. Two, you respect their capabilities. By not rushing to fill every gap, you give them the dignity and opportunity to solve their own problems or find a genuinely available resource. You empower them rather than enabling dependency. Three, you offer an authentic version of yourself. The time you do spend with them or the help you do provide is genuine and fully present, unburdened by the debt of obligation. This radical honesty is a higher form of kindness than compliant self-sacrifice. Three, filters for balanced giving. To ensure your generosity is sustainable and self-respecting, run every request for your time or energy through these three simple filters. These filters help you assess the balance before you commit. 1. The fullness filter. Do I have the energy? This is a physical and emotional check. Don't ask, can I physically squeeze this task into my calendar? Ask, if I say yes, will I be sacrificing my core need for rest, solitude, or necessary preparation? If the answer involves postponing sleep, canceling a self-care activity, or feeling a sense of immediate dread, the answer is no, regardless of how much you want to please the person. Self-care translation. Only agree to give from the overflow you generated after securing your needs. 2. The reciprocity filter. Is this equitable? This filter ensures the relationship is one of mutual respect, not one-sided dependency. It asks, is this person generally mindful of my time and energy, and have they demonstrated a willingness to be there for me when I needed it? If the request is from a consistent taker, who rarely reciprocates, you have a right to decline or offer a heavily limited, transactional form of help. This protects your value and teaches them that your time is not cheap. Self-care translation. You are not obligated to invest in a one-sided connection. Invest your best energy in your equals. 3. The integrity filter. Does this align with my values? This is a check against compromising your core principles. It asks, does this request require me to violate a pre-established boundary or a deeply held value? If the request requires you to participate in drama, break a promise to yourself, or engage in a task that feels fundamentally dishonest or disruptive to your peace, like attending a toxic event, the answer must be no. Self-care translation. Your integrity is your highest value. A temporary favor is never worth the long-term cost of inner conflict. Giving with graceful limits. When you choose to give, having passed the filters, you can still apply boundaries to ensure the act remains balanced and finite. This prevents the request from creeping into an open-ended, energy-consuming commitment. Limit the resource. Be precise about how much you are offering. Instead of, I can help you with your resume, say, I can dedicate 1 hour to reviewing your resume on Tuesday evening, but I won't be able to do a full edit. You are giving a generous amount of your focus and expertise within a strict time boundary. Limit the scope. Be clear about what you are not doing. If a friend asks for emotional support regarding a family drama, you can offer a limit. I am here to listen and validate your feelings, but I need to stop short of giving advice or assigning blame to others. This protects your neutrality and prevents you from being pulled into the drama's core. Limit the duration. For ongoing projects or support roles, set a firm end date. I'm happy to take on the Tuesday night shift for the next 6 weeks while you transition, but I will need to hand it off on the 7th week to regain my time. This allows you to give fully for a defined period without creating a permanent obligation. This concept of giving within limits transforms your generosity into a mutually respectful agreement. The recipient appreciates the specific, available help, and you maintain the dignity of your self-care routine. Balanced generosity is the ultimate expression of your self-respect. When you honor your own well-being first, your kindness becomes pure, sustainable, and profoundly impactful. You are not just giving a portion of your time. You are giving your calm, centered, and whole self. That truly is the best gift you have to offer. Reflection. Think of an upcoming opportunity for generosity. Run that commitment through the three filters: fullness, reciprocity, and integrity. If you choose to say yes, how can you apply a graceful limit of time, scope, or duration to ensure the giving remains balanced and joyful rather than depleting? Chapter 11. Teaching others how to treat you. We have established the internal framework of self-care and the external practice of balanced generosity. Now, we arrive at the profound realization that your consistent behavior is the most powerful teacher in any relationship. You don't need to deliver a long lecture or an emotional plea to command respect. You teach others how to treat you through your clear actions, your graceful reactions, and your unwavering commitment to the standards you've set for yourself. Expectations are not truly built on words. They are built on the consistent evidence of what you allow and what you don't. This chapter is about moving beyond simply setting boundaries and into the confident space of embodying them. When you consistently show up as a person who is centered, respectful of her own time, and firm in her truth, others naturally align their behavior to meet that standard. The silent curriculum. Think of your life as a silent classroom where every interaction is a lesson. People are always watching for cues on how to behave around you. If you rush to answer every text, drop everything for every request, and let appointments run long, the lesson is: this person's time is highly flexible and their needs are secondary. If you are punctual, focused during conversations, deliver your limits with calm finality, and consistently follow through on your consequences, the lesson is: this person respects her own time and will ensure I respect it too. Our interaction must be efficient and respectful. The beautiful part of this process is that the teaching is entirely self-focused. You aren't trying to change the other person. You are simply maintaining your own internal harmony. The change in their behavior is a natural, automatic response to your stability. 3 core behaviors that teach respect. You can intentionally use 3 specific, consistent behaviors to guide others toward a respectful and balanced dynamic. 1. Consistent punctuality and time management. Your relationship with time is the clearest, most universal boundary signal. When you are punctual and manage your own time efficiently, you are setting an expectation for everyone else. Start and end on time. If you agree to meet a friend at 6 p.m., be there at 6 p.m. If you agree to end a conversation after 20 minutes, gently and firmly end it after 20 minutes. Do not let conversations bleed into your next planned activity. The graceful disengage. When you need to leave a social event or end a call, do so with a brief, clear statement that focuses on your own schedule, not their reaction. I have enjoyed this chat, and I need to close the conversation now to get ready for my evening, or I need to head out now. Thank you for hosting. Avoid getting pulled into the one more thing negotiation. The punctuality standard. If someone consistently makes you wait, you teach them that your time is valuable by refusing to wait indefinitely. After a brief grace period, say 10 minutes, send a polite text. I'll need to go ahead and start my activity now. Please join me when you arrive, but I won't be able to wait past 10 after. Consistency here teaches that your time is not a waiting room for their lack of planning. 2. Reciprocal inquiry and focus. The quality of your attention teaches people what kind of engagement you require. An equal partnership demands that both parties feel seen and heard. Redefine the conversation. If you find yourself consistently listening to a monologue, gently interrupt and steer the focus back to a balanced exchange. You can wait for a pause and say, "That is a very interesting situation. Before we move on, I wanted to quickly get your thoughts on something I am dealing with." Or, "I've listened to you for a while, and now I need you to listen to me." Ask for the return. After you have offered support or shared energy, consciously create the space for them to reciprocate. Instead of letting them rush off, ask a specific question about their interest in your life. "Thank you for letting me bounce that idea off you. I'd love to know, what's been your biggest win this week?" If they consistently deflect this, they are teaching you that they are not seeking an equal exchange, and you can adjust your availability accordingly. Demand presence. If a conversation partner is distracted, looking at their phone, constantly interrupting, you can gently interrupt and bring them back. "I feel like I've lost you for a moment. I'd love to continue this, but I need your full attention to feel heard." This immediately resets the expectation for respectful engagement. 3. Predictable response to violations. This is the most critical teaching moment. When a boundary is crossed, your response, or lack thereof, is the ultimate lesson. Immediate and consistent consequence. We discussed this in Chapter 6, but it bears repeating. Your consequence is the curriculum. If someone violates a financial boundary, you calmly, immediately enact the financial consequence. If someone speaks to you disrespectfully, you calmly and immediately enact the emotional consequence, ending the call, pausing the conversation, walking away. No nagging, no complaining, just action. Teaching through action means avoiding the reactive, high-emotion responses that drain your energy. A controller wants you to argue and get upset because it is a form of engagement. When you simply enact the consequence without drama or anger, you demonstrate that your peace is more valuable than the need to lecture them. The lesson becomes purely experiential. When I do X, the conversation stops. The confidence of the known standard. When you consistently operate from a place of clear, firm standards, you remove ambiguity from the relationship. This clarity actually creates a sense of safety for the people in your life. They know where they stand and they know what to expect. An equal is grateful for this clarity. It allows them to respect you effortlessly. A controller will eventually realize that your calm authority is an impenetrable force, and they will either choose to respect you or choose to drift away, creating the necessary space for more balanced connections to flourish. You are not being rigid. You are defining the parameters of a relationship that serves your well-being. This gentle, consistent self-advocacy is the highest form of self-respect, and it is the only way to teach the world that you are worthy of nothing less than an equal, harmonious connection. Your sustained peace is your most eloquent teacher. Reflection. Identify one person you know who is consistently late or dominates conversations. Decide which of the 3 teaching behaviors, punctuality, time management, reciprocal inquiry focus, or predictable response, you will deploy the next time you interact. Rehearse the single, calm, and brief statement you will use to enforce the standard. This small act of consistent teaching will shift the entire dynamic. Chapter 12. Mastering Balanced Boundaries. We have journeyed from the subtle erosion of weak boundaries to the confident embodiment of self-respect. We have defined our essential needs, learned to communicate with grace, handled resistance with composure, and ensured that our generosity is sustainable. This final chapter is about synthesizing all those lessons into a cohesive, daily practice, mastering balanced boundaries. Mastery isn't about achieving a static, perfect state. It is about establishing a dynamic, reliable rhythm. It means integrating clarity, consistency, and calm authority so deeply into your life that attracting equals and maintaining harmony becomes your effortless, natural default. The integration of clarity and calm. The truly masterful boundary setter does not rely on aggressive confrontation. They rely on presence. The inner work of clarity, knowing your values and non-negotiables, should now manifest as a quiet, unshakable calm. Think of the difference between a rushing river and a deep, tranquil lake. The rushing river is reactive. It floods its banks when overwhelmed. The deep lake is still and contained. It holds its volume and simply reflects the sky, regardless of the weather. Your goal is to be the deep lake. Clarity provides the structure of the lake bed, and calm provides the stillness of the surface. When a boundary needs to be set or reinforced, you should be able to access your clarity instantly. You don't have to scramble for a reason or an apology. You simply state the established fact about yourself. Practice internal rehearsal. Mentally rehearse your core boundaries daily. My evening hours are for rest. I will not compromise my sleep. This mental preparation makes the external communication routine and simple, reducing the emotional friction when the moment arrives. Embrace the pause. When a draining request is made, your first action must be to pause. Do not feel pressured to give an immediate answer. A masterful response often is, "That sounds like a big ask. I need 24 hours to check my schedule and capacity before I give you an answer." The pause is your moment to consult your inner clarity, ensuring your decision is based on your needs, not your people-pleasing reflex. This integration means your boundaries are no longer rigid walls. They are predictable guidelines offered with genuine warmth, rooted in an unshakable inner peace. The continuous practice of consistency. Consistency remains the ultimate arbiter of mastery. An equal partnership, whether in friendship or love, is maintained not by grand gestures, but by the reliability of small, daily actions. To master consistency, you must become comfortable with the feeling of being redundant. The need to repeat yourself, to enforce the same rule, or to follow through on the same consequence can feel boring. But this repetition is precisely what trains the world around you. Your boundaries should be like the dependable flow of traffic. You stop at the red light every time, not just when you feel like it. Embrace the broken record. When faced with resistance or negotiation, your consistent, calm repetition of the limit is the most powerful tool. You do not vary the message. You simply vary the tone slightly to show you are still present. I appreciate your persistence, and I truly understand you're hoping for an exception, but my answer remains that I cannot discuss this before tomorrow. The self-auditing habit. Masterful boundary practice requires gentle, regular self-auditing. At the end of each week, ask yourself, where did I feel most drained this week? Where did I feel most alive? The points of drainage indicate where a boundary needs shoring up, and the points of vitality show you where your boundaries are working perfectly, reminding you of the reward. This continuous, non-judgmental feedback loop keeps your inner scale balanced, thriving in the space of mutuality. The true reward of mastering balanced boundaries is the creation of a life where mutual benefit is the standard. When you are centered and protected, you attract people who are also mature, self-aware, and willing to invest equally in the relationship. This is the definition of thriving. You thrive through deepened connection. The relationships you maintain are richer, more honest, and less exhausting. You are connected to people who respect your no as much as your yes, meaning you can show up authentically without the mask of perpetual accommodation. You thrive through energy conservation. Your energy is no longer wasted on defensive maneuvers, resentment, or arguing with controllers. It is channeled directly into your goals, your passions, and the people who genuinely uplift you. Your focus increases and your creative output expands. You thrive through inner integrity. You live in constant alignment with your core values. There is a deep, quiet satisfaction that comes from knowing you are consistently honoring yourself. This integrity becomes a positive feedback loop, fueling your confidence and reinforcing the cycle of self-respect. The work is never truly done, but the difficulty of the work decreases dramatically once the rhythm is established. The moment you decide that your peace, your time, and your energy are inherently worthy of protection, the balance shifts in your favor. Mastering balanced boundaries is the ultimate act of self-love, and it is the single most effective way to curate a life filled with equals, harmony, and profound mutual respect. You have done the work to define your standards. Now, simply live them, gracefully and consistently. The balanced life you've envisioned is now yours to inhabit. Reflection. Look ahead at the next month and envision your life with your new, mastered boundaries fully in place. What does your day look like? How do your most important relationships feel? Commit to one long-term habit, a weekly self-audit, a daily time limit on communications, or an immediate, calm enforcement of a core boundary. That will ensure you not only attract equals but keep them by sustaining the harmony you've built.